Yeah, there will be no national examinations in 2020 and all pupils and students in grade 1 to 7 and form 1 to 3 will remain in their current classes when schools reopen in January 2021. Education CS Professor George Magoha says universities will be reopened on a case-by-case basis. Plus, bridled pluralism 30 years on. Dozens of pro-democracy activists have been arrested in the city for engaging in peaceful protest to commemorate the Sabasaba struggles. This even as another group of pro-democracy activists and politicians took a swipe at the government for condoning the plunder of national resources. The details here tonight. Also tonight, all the faithful's fury. The clergy is happy that places of worship will be reopened starting next week. But church elders and leaders who are advanced in age are up in arms. They want the age limit protocol removed from among the rules that must be met by all worshippers. The new worship order here tonight. And no on-air ambulances for you. CS Mutahi Kagwe warns Kenyans planning to travel to upcountry that they will not be airlifted to Nairobi if they happen to contract COVID-19. Kagwe also says that the infections will reach its peak in September. The virus is far from being over.
This is TV47 News Tonight with Abubakar Abdullahi.
TV47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi, begins right now. Anne Wairimu is our sign language interpreter to our top story. Now, there will be no examinations this year. The Ministry of Education has announced. Education CS Professor George Magoha says basic education will resume next year, while those in tertiary and universities will resume upon meeting the COVID-19 precautionary measures. Joash Onsare begins our broadcast tonight.
The expectations of having KCPE and KCSE examination this year are no more.
There shall be no KCPE for the year 2020. Number two, the 2020 Standard 8 and Form 4 cohorts will sit their examinations later in the year of 2021. And number three, the school calendar of this year will be considered lost due to COVID-19.
This was the decision reached by education stakeholders after consultations on the resumption of learning and at the same time protecting the students and teachers from contracting the virus.
We want our children to be safe, and we know our schools at the moment we cannot attain the social distance.
The safety of teachers and learners in the workplace is also very critical and important.
This means come 2021, Form 1 class will be in cohorts after the current class have done their exams next year.
These decisions made on institutions reopening will apply to all children, including those offering international curriculum.
Further, the Ministry of Education is expected to improve on digital learning and other initiatives to enhance home-based learning.
To ensure learners are engaged, the Ministry of Education will enhance remote learning, online, distance, and e-learning, and explore other innovative approaches to promote equity.
However, technical institutions and universities will reopen upon meeting laid-down measures in combating COVID-19. According to Education CS Professor George Magoha, the decision might be reverted depending on the coronavirus spread in the country. Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
Places of worship will start a phased reopening on Tuesday next week, but under strict guidelines from the government. The guidelines include restricting people above 58 years and those below 13 years, a move that has been challenged in some quarters by a section of religious leaders. The leaders say that there are no clear protocols to ensure vulnerable persons should be kept away from places of worship.
Allahu Akbar, Allah. The first reopening of places of worship will kick off on the Tuesday, the 14th of this month, under strict guidelines. Only 100 people will be allowed for worship at any given service. No service will be allowed to go beyond 1 hour under the guidelines. Persons above 58 years and those below 13 years have been advised to stay away from public worship places, as well as those with underlying health conditions. Worship places will also be required to have sanitizers and hand-washing points. The leaders of the religious places have also been advised to get alternative methods of collecting offerings and tithes.
We'll certainly try to help their elderly, even wherever they are, to attend to them and advise them that this is for their good and for their safety. This is why we are now in the realm of personal responsibility and community responsibility.
The age factor has not, however, gone well with a number of church leaders who want it reviewed. Many religious leaders are said to be above the 58 years age limit. And with some worship places having huge number of congregants, this will now mean more services to serve the large numbers.
It is up to each one of the faith tradition leaders, their assemblies, all their groups, to see how to put into practice some of those concrete suggestions we make. So for those who are presiding, it will be up to their seniors or the persons in church not to determine which of them and the way they have to handle it.
The Interfaith Council, led by Archbishop Anthony Muheria, will prepare a report on the first phase before a review.
We must ensure the safety of each and every one of our congregants. The Interfaith Council will review and advise accordingly in the next 3 weeks.
Moving on, senators are yet to agree on a revenue allocation formula, with 19 senators of the counties proposed for a revenue reduction boycotting a Senate sitting. The standoff in the House is likely to further delay disbursement of funds to the county governments, as Elizabeth Mutuku now reports.
The standoff on the revenue allocation is yet to be resolved, with 19 senators from the counties expected to get reduction of the 316 billion shillings allocation, protesting the formula. The 19 skipped the afternoon session that was expected to debate the matter after it was deferred last week. Counties expected to lose in the proposed formula include Mandera, Isiolo, Wajir, Kilifi, Tana River, Narok, Kitui. Others include Vihiga, Nyamira, Makueni, Turkana, Kwale, Lamu, Garissa, Taita Taveta, Tharaka Nithi and Marsabit.
This formula is dividing Kenya into two, those who have and those who have none. And let me tell you, there are very interesting things coming up. Referendum, BBI. How do you expect us to go and tell our people, let's vote for this, when you're taking all the money away from them?
These formulas are done by people. People can sit down and work out formulas that ensure, at the very minimum, no county loses a single cent.
Haitakuwa sawa kaunti nyingine zipunguziwe, nyingine ziongezewe. Kwa vile serikali imesema haina pesa za kuongeza, basi zile ambazo ziligawa kwa mwaka 2019, 2020 zigawe zile zile. Hakuna kaunti hata moja inatakana ipoteze pesa kwa sababu serikali haikuweza kutoa pesa za kutosha.
A section of senators claiming the proposed formula is derailing devolution.
This is a very serious matter. As a senator elected in Isiolo County, I am going to oppose it with all the energy that I have.
The standoff in the Senate over the county allocation formula will see a delay of disbursement of county monies.
Maeneo ambayo hatusemi kwamba kuna ukabila, lakini tunasema ya kwamba kwa nini kuprofile watu hao. Kwa hiyo sisi tunapinga na kwamba hatutakubali kugawanywa kikabila, wala hatuweza kugawanywa kwamba watu wengine walio na pesa. Hatujaona pesa inatolewa kwa tajiri, inatolewa kwa maskini, inapelekwa kwa tajiri.
The country is literally split in two. One side of the country is gaining, the other side of the country is losing. They are using fictitious parameters like roads,
Now, when you talk about roads in Turkana, where are those roads?
This is sad, and I am urging the president. These people are misleading you. They are messing your name. Mr. President, please forget about this formula. The whole formula is a waste of time. How do counties lose money? As Mheshimiwa Mazayo said, how do you remove from the poor to the rich?
10 governors have already said they will oppose the proposed formula. Elizabeth Motiko, TV47 Nairobi.
Elsewhere, Kirinyaga woman representative Wangui Ngirishi has lost her position as the chairperson of the women members of parliament. Her removal being viewed now as a continued Jubilee party purge, which has been targeting Deputy President William Ruto's allies.
And I'm ready for the challenge.
Out of 97 women member of parliament, 65 voted for the removal of Kirinyaga women representative Wangui Ngirishi as the chairperson of the Kenya Women Parliamentary Association, KEWOPA. Ngirishi has been removed over claims that she has failed to be dedicated on issues of women in parliament. Kiambu Women Representative Gathoni Wamushomba will now chair the Women Caucus Group.
As a chair of this association is to make sure that I deliver on the women agenda. One of the key recipes of the women agenda is to unite women politicians, whether in the National Assembly, those that had aspired to become members, so that we can give them hope of women leadership in this country.
Ngirishi, however, claims that her removal was against and did not follow that law, insisting she is still the chairperson.
Kwa mkutano wa kukutana kuamua kwamba mwenyekiti kutolewa kwa mwenyekiti pia inaitisha watu 33. Pia hiyo tumezidisha. Kwa hapo notice pia ilikuwa tumepatiana notice ya wiki moja. Na notice watu wote walipata, na hata chair ule ametolewa sasa alitumiwa.
Ngirishi is an ally of the Deputy President William Ruto, who recently said his allied have been targeted unfairly in House committees for associating themselves with his 2022 presidential bid. The Jubilee Party has been fumigating its house with over 20 Ruto allies being discharged from House committees and House leadership positions. Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
You're watching TV47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi, 14 minutes past the hour. Remember, you can be part of this broadcast. You can be part of the discussion that we will be having a little bit later, commemorating the Saba Saba, a day with historical significance in the country. Our guest tonight, as I preempt now, Mother Karua, who is a past and says she is a future presidential candidate, NAK Kenya party leader, and Wanyiri Kihoro, who is a political detainee and former Nyeri Town Member of Parliament. That discussion will be coming on your way shortly. But now, Deputy President William Ruto hosted morning prayers with the clergy from Nyeri County at his current chapel. This is in a series of meetings with religious leaders in his new political strategy at his current office. Ruto says the first reopening of the places of worship, as announced by President Uhuru Kenyatta, is a one-term move that now places the responsibility of confronting the virus at an individual level.
Na Mheshimiwa Rais alitangaza ile mipango na taratibu imewekwa kufunguliwa kwa nchi kwa mambo ya uchumi, kanisani, mambo ya shule. Lakini ni vizuri tuelewe vile Rais alisema ya kwamba tutafaulu sio kwa uwezo wa wale wanaoshughulikia mambo ya amani Kenya, na ni ya muhimu, sio kwa ujuzi wa madaktari na wauguzi wetu na mipango ile tumeweka, na hiyo pia ni muhimu, lakini ni kwa mambo yale tutafaulu, kwa mambo yale kila Mkenya atafanya.
All right, from prayers to more prayers for the player who has declared his interest in the 2022 race. Time for us to take a short break here on TV47 News Tonight. We still have a lot lined up for you. We'll be back after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to TV47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi. Let's get to more news. Now, hours after the cessation of movement in and out of Nairobi, Mombasa and Mandera counties lapsed, transport in major highways in those areas appeared and appears still to be returning to normalcy. Among those worst affected by the cessation were public service vehicle operators who appear to have resumed operations even as the government directed them to first obtain certification from the Ministry of Health. David Mudoka reports.
Vacant tents, abandoned makeshift eateries, littered surfaces, and a fairly fluid traffic flow, painting a picture of the return to normalcy following withdrawal of security officials from the General Service Unit who had mounted a barricade here at Lukenya along the Nairobi to Mombasa highway. The roadblock, having been erected here for exactly 3 months, was part of the measures put in place to enforce a cessation order issued by President Uhuru Kenyatta on 6th April this year. The withdrawal coming hours after President Kenyatta announced the lapse of cessation in and out of the Nairobi metropolitan area on Monday. Nairobi joining the list of counties benefiting from the lapse, among them Mombasa and Mandera. These deserted tents signaling that the men in blue and the officials from the Ministry of Health who sought shelter here during the cessation period are long gone. The tent owners here seemingly on their way out as well. This in turn has seen a gradual return of public service vehicles along the highway after the 3 months hiatus. However, not many. The president directed the owners and operators to seek certification from the Ministry of Health before resuming operations. Boda operators here also smiling all the way to the bank. According to them, this area was off bounds to them during the period when the GSU officers were manning this roadblock, perhaps from the fear they will collude with motorists to flout regulations.
Tangu lockdown ingie ndio tulifukuzwa hapa. Na mimi nikatoka nikaenda zangu. Lakini wakati rais alifungua nilionelea nirudi nikuja nijitafutie kitu.
Along the Thika superhighway, similar scenes have been witnessed following the withdrawal of a roadblock at Blue Post area. This highway that connects the larger central Kenya residents to the capital Nairobi has seen public vehicles on Wednesday gradually dominate a route that was hitherto dominated by solely essential service providers. Passengers from various parts in the country welcoming the news.
Juu sasa tutaweza kuondoka, tutaweza kuendelea kwenda town na juu tuweze kukuja na tu vitu za zenye zinahitajika kwa biashara zetu. Kwa hivyo nashukuru sana kwa kuondolewa kwa roadblock.
Mimi nasema watu wajikinge na watu wajiangalie. Watu wenyewe ndio watamaliza hii ugonjwa. Kwa sababu wakiweka social distance, wakikosa kwenda mahali kuna watu wengi, hii itakuwa tumeondoa ugonjwa.
Meanwhile, transport into Nairobi from Bungoma is yet to resume. Matatu stakeholders here hoping the standoff between them and health officials will be resolved in no time in their bid to resume operations as per directives from the head of state.
Na tumesubiri wakubwa wetu watueleze jinsi wameambiwa kutoka kwa serikali. Kwa sasa tulikuwa tunasafiri hadi Nakuru. Hatukuwa tunafika Nairobi.
And as the transport sector comes to life yet again, stakeholders are relishing a fresh start.
As latest as 4 a.m. on Tuesday, this place was thronged with plenty of security officials who effected the cessation of movement in and out of Nairobi metropolitan area. But now they are long gone, with the deserted tents and portable toilets here, a fair reminder of how things were when cessation was in full effect. But now things seem to be returning to their normalcy along Kenya's largest and arguably busiest highways. David Mudoka, TV47 at Lukenya, Machakos County.
Now, a state of normalcy in the public transport sector has resumed in most bus stations in Nairobi, with passengers boarding matatus ready to travel up country after the cessation of movement into and out of Nairobi lapsed at dawn. This is happening as matatu operators who have turned their vehicles into luggage ferrying vans rushed to refurbish them back to the commuter status. Eli Logova reports.
It is a great relief and joyful moment for many people. Since the lockdown, many people had stopped their traveling plans, but Tuesday, the streets of Nairobi looked different. At Tirum bus stop, many travelers expressed joy that they can finally be reunited with their families after a long time.
Nasafiri kwenda Nyeri na nimefurahia sana venye barabara zimefunguliwa. Sasa mtu anaenda na wazazi wake, nyanya zake. Hatari iko, siwezi sema hatari haiko. Lakini unajua ni vizuri kujikinga. Sasa kuna zile measures ukienda sema kama uko nyumbani utateka.
On the other hand, many public service vehicles that had removed commuter seats in order to ferry parcels and other items on Tuesday had a date with fabricators. The seats were being returned into the vehicles in readiness to resumption of normal duty.
Walikuja wakatoa viti, wakabeba misigo. Sasa ndio wanarudi tena tuwawekee. Lakini si ati kuweka ati kiti kingine mpya ile tu. Ile kitu inafanya ni distance.
Kama kasi ni mingi unasangia hata kama ni 10,000. Lakini ilikuwa chini hata pata 500 ni ngumu.
After close to 3 months since the cessation of movement in and out of Nairobi was imposed, the matatu operators can now smile again. However, passengers will have to dig deeper into their pockets despite the harsh economic times.
Magari yetu ile mingi ilifungiwa na huko reserve. Ile gari moja tu imeweza kubeba, ni gari moja tu imeweza kubeba hapa. Hizo zingine tunatarajia ziingie leo na kesho kulingana na vile hali iko.
Gari naona inabeba watu 8. Watu 8 ukiangalia gari hiyo kutoka hapa mpaka Nakuru. Lazima ipandishe kafea kidogo tu hata kama ni 100. Kama saa hii tunalipisha kutoka 400 tunaenda 500.
Eli Logova, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you for that report. Nonetheless, as earlier promised, let's get to our discussion tonight. We are making sense of the 7th of July, Sabasaba, a day that has historical significance attached to it, of course, here locally in Kenya. And let's bring in our guest tonight, Martha Karua, who is the NAK Kenya party leader, a past and future presidential candidate. She'll tell us of when that future is, nonetheless. Martha Karua, thank you. Good evening.
Evening.
For the purposes of our audience who are watching us tonight, why is the 7th of July, Saturday, 1990, such an important day in Kenya's political history?
I think that it is a significant day because it is the day Kenyans said enough is enough. And when I say Kenyans, I mean a majority of Kenyans, the champions of the pro-democracy push at that time, and as many Kenyans as possible showing solidarity by coming to Kamukunji, and thereafter, after the state dispersed and arrested the people at Kamukunji and the pro-democracy champions, more or less like they did today, and took them to their up-country homes where they were detained in the nearest police stations. The following Monday, people came out in all those areas in Kenya in solidarity with the arrested persons. So I can say it's a moment that marked the journey
and was the hallmark of this importance the multi-party struggle of having more than a one-party rule in the country?
That was one of the issues. The other issue was about respect for human rights and upholding the rule of law. It was about economic rights. It was about service, the things that are captured in the 2010 Constitution.
All right, I asked you with the specification on political parties, because as we speak, Kenya has more than 180 political parties. Is it not the case that the notifiable difference among the political countries in this country as of now is either the color of their brand or the theme of their songs, little with ideologies?
Regrettably, I have to agree because parties have been registered without following the right procedure. If you remember, after the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution, new regulations came on registering political parties. And the registrar is supposed to ensure that certain things happen, including grassroots elections of a political party before it is fully registered. You have said there are 180 registered political parties. Last time I checked, there were 50-something. I did not know they have gone to 180. It means that the process of registration is not being followed strictly. In this country, I don't think you have had even 10 parties having elections, leave alone 100.
Martha, let me interject you at that point. What then was the essence of fighting for more political freedom and essence to this matter if the current political parties have little in as far as political ideologies are concerned? Is it a chance being wasted?
You know, a party or political parties are their members. To begin with, a lot of people in this country are not members of a political party. Maybe if I asked you, you will not be a member of a political party.
Even though each political party has some live members.
I want to invite Kenyans to join political parties of their choice, to build those political parties to be institutions, to be democratic, to be law-abiding political parties, and political parties that follow their constitution. A party is not just something, you know, in the abstract. It is the sum total of its membership and its leadership. So we, me and you, make political parties. And if as Kenyans, we remember parties only election time, we have ourselves to blame.
All right, one of the veteran journalists in this country, Macharia Gaido, wrote a piece today that was in one of the country's leading publications. Interestingly, he points that, quote, Sabasaba 1990 saw a government in independent Kenya borrow the colonial regime playbook. In your own view, has that, if at all you agree with him, has that colonial regime playbook ended, or is it still in practice?
It was actually supposed to end with the 2010 Constitution,
but it ended?
Has not ended. Sadly, no. There are very many things. The style of leadership that is there today is following the colonial playbook. If you look at how peaceful marchers were arrested today, peacefully marching to commemorate Sabasaba, peacefully marching to demand socio-economic rights, to demand implementation of the Constitution. Why would the police disperse them with force, with use of force? Why would they be detained when they are exercising their freedoms as enshrined in the Constitution? The state, using the security agencies, is still treating Kenyans as enemies. Instead of the police being utumishi kwa wote, they are still coming with their heavy boots and traumatizing Kenyans, assaulting them, violating their rights. But the police do that on orders. So the question today, why did this government, the executive, because the buck stops with the president, who gave the order to brutalize the people who are marching peacefully? How did those people become a threat?
All right, let's talk of...
The colonial playbook is in place.
All right, let's talk of an electoral justice in the country, which is part of the spirit of Sabasaba itself, that then attempts to demand for free and fair elections. 30 years later, it seems as though there is disquiet in the political class, there is mistrust with the electoral bodies of the country.
Sadly, again so, but who are the electoral bodies? It's professionals like me and the next person who have been given the responsibility to run elections, who are letting us down because of not behaving as the Constitution has empowered them to. The Constitution has given them independence, but they bow down to the pressures of the political elite, especially the elite in power. They get co-opted and they foul the elections.
Mother Karua, let me ask you this.
Kenyan.
Let me ask you this. You talk of the law. You are a lawyer yourself, a senior counsel admitted.
Yeah.
Why is it then that it is the law? If the law has the backing, why is it then that that backing is not resulting to results? Is it a case of the law being best on paper?
The law is as good as the people who implement it. If you are a weak character and you cannot stand firmly, the law will not make you different. So it means we are hiring people who have demonstrated or later demonstrate that they are incapable of running the offices that we give them, whether it is the executive, whether it's a person at the electoral body, or whether it is a judicial officer who becomes unable to properly apply the law. So my call is for professionals, whether an engineer who is authorizing a contractor to be paid when the road is not properly done, whether it's a lawyer or an accountant falsifying the records of people who have been stealing public money. We are to blame.
And if
so
this,
if we
and if this,
if a critical mass of Kenyan professionals agree to do what is right for this country, we will then see a new Kenya. This is a wake-up call that all people of goodwill must now move towards realizing, helping us to realize the dream of Kenyans that is embodied in the Constitution. We must uphold.
Mother Karua, let me interject you at that point. You talk of the dream of Kenya, you talk of the new Kenya. What will the ideal Kenya look like in your own view?
The ideal Kenya should be a Kenya where leadership and anything done in the name of Kenyans is for the benefit of Kenyans, but not implementing policies that favor the ruling elite, where any law that is being enacted because it is going to serve the interests of Kenyans. That is the ideal Kenya.
And how logically possible will it be to absolve the interest of those in the political class, you and the others, and draft laws that are favorable to the people? Is that even logically possible?
It is.
Is it the case?
If you look at countries that have ethical leadership, they are able to do things that are in the best interest of the people. Let us begin with the health system because it is COVID time. The health system should be responsive to the majority. We should be able to get quality health services in public hospitals. It was possible when we were growing up because even the colonial hospitals we inherited were actually functioning. But now services at public hospitals are at their lowest. Even with devolution and health services being devolved to the counties, we have failed to fund them adequately. We have failed to implement the law so that leaders, whether at the county level or the national level, who dip their hands in the cookie jar are punished in accordance with the law. So our devolution is minting fresh millionaires and billionaires instead of giving service to the people. Basic needs, education, health, housing, water and sanitation, adequate food, that is something that is realizable. And you can see that even the government that is there today has started implementing a social welfare program where they give money to the old, where they are giving money to orphans, but there is no proper criteria how they arrive at who to give and who not to give.
All right. In the spirit of Sabasaba, let's talk of the national unity of the country. And this, I'll drive the conversation to the Building Bridges initiative. You say there is a difference between the handshake and the BBI. What is the difference, Martha?
I think most of us called for the handshake, and I did, because we wanted the tension in the country diffused. It meant engagement, constructive engagement between the president and the former prime minister, and it did diffuse tension. But we did not cede our right to participate in our affairs, nor did we give them a blank check to determine when to amend the constitution and to determine the need for amending the constitution without proper consultation.
And if the Building Bridges Initiative report and the initiative itself are a byproduct of the handshake between the duo in reference to President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, what is the problem with that?
The constitution clearly says that it is Kenyans who must have a say in things that matter, and Kenyans must participate. But in the Building Bridges Initiative, the people in that committee are handpicked by the president and the former prime minister. Kenyans did not participate in their appointments. If they are representing their parties, and they come from large parties, I want to admit, they should have made it possible for civil society, religious groups, human rights organizations, political parties not represented, to also come together and get their own nominees in that group. Maybe then the result would have been that our priority is not amending a constitution we have not implemented. Our priority is ensuring that we implement the constitution that we together enacted, and to ensure that the Kenyan dream embodied in that constitution is achieved.
Martha Karua, the argument from the proponents of this Building Bridges initiative is that there are some clauses of the constitution that need to be relooked at. First, as a lawyer, do you agree with that?
No, I don't, and I'm still waiting for somebody to tell me which are those clauses and to make an argument why they must be looked at. Before they do that, I'll be asking them, if you cannot obey this current constitution, there are many things the constitution says be done and have not been done. We have not implemented the chapter on management of public finances. Public finances are still being abused, misused. People are being taken to court selectively. We have not seen any efforts whatsoever to respect the human rights of the people. We are talking about interruption of peaceful marches today, arrest and incarceration of those marchers. We are talking of so many people who have been killed by the police during COVID. It was in the media, more than 100. Extrajudicial killings. All those things are provided for in the Constitution. If we want to amend certain clauses today, and we cannot obey the Constitution that we have, of what use will it be? What guarantee do we have that it will be obeyed? It doesn't
all right,
make
you say you are yet to see someone who can make a case as to why the Constitution should be amended. Leave the BBI aside, let's get to Third Way Alliance proposal. On the question of over-representation, they want to reduce them members of parliament from their current position to a much lower position. That is one case that one would arguably make for this discussion.
I don't think that is a priority at all.
How is it not? Is it not the question of over-representation?
Let me just say this. How is over-representation a problem right now when more than 1/3 of the budget is being stolen or misused? When we cannot account properly for the money allocated for health services, when we have a broken health system, when people cannot put food on their tables, you tell me it's the right time to spend money on a referendum? I don't think so. And if anybody thinks it's the time, open up the discussion.
All right,
Let the
Martha,
people
you
of
say
this country discuss
Martha,
and say for themselves These are their priorities.
All right, you say you don't
I
see over-representation as a question, but nonetheless, you want to be the president of this country, I suppose, someday. When you have more representation, yet a small country as such, with a wage bill that is ballooning, skyrocketing every month, spending more on expenditure.
I'll tell you once again that 1/3 of the budget, which is in trillions, is lost every year. That would mean more than 600 billion in corruption, in misuse. The amount of money you want to tell me will be saved by the proposals of That Way Alliance, it doesn't make sense to review the Constitution now before we implement it, before we respect the Constitution.
All right.
Let Kenyans discuss and let it be the voice of Kenyans, not the voice of the political elite. I'm a politician and I'm saying the Constitution has given sovereign authority to the citizens. Let us listen to them, not to our own voices.
All right. You raise a question. You raise a question of corruption in the country, arguably the biggest headache in the country. And just to be fair to Third Way Alliance, for purpose of veracity of the information we are giving, they're also hinting or suggesting the idea of special courts that can deal with these cases in 30 days. Nonetheless, let's not dwell on that. I understand we are out of time.
We are already having, you have mentioned it, so we must dwell on it. We already have special courts dealing with corruption.
But they are not dealing with a specified timeline of 30 days.
We do not need to amend the Constitution in order for cases to be heard within 30 days. That is a matter for legislation, and it's also an administrative matter. Let us not tell Kenyans that our behavior can be legislated. Any officer hearing corruption cases, they are in control of their courts, and they should be able to hear the case and finish it within a reasonable time. It is the judiciary which should be telling us why these cases are not being given priority, why they are adjourned until we forget the matter, and then the culprits are sometimes released. Let us have a conversation on why things are not working, but let us not deceive people that you need to amend the Constitution in order to have corruption cases speeded up.
All right, Martha Karua, you have made your case. I understand we are out of time. One final question. Your Twitter bio reads, and I quote, past and future presidential candidate. How near is that future?
Let me say this. When the right time comes, you will know, because you will be in this country. I will not talk about elections that have not been called for. I keep saying I am qualified for all the 6 seats. I'm ready, able and willing to serve Kenyans. And when the time comes near, we shall have a discussion and agree on in what capacity I should serve.
And you're not putting any timeline to that time itself, is it?
No, I am politically young at 62.
All right, Martha Karua, na Kenya party leader. A past,
I can see Wanyere Kihoro somewhere, and I salute him.
A past and a future presidential candidate, as he says. Thank you, Martha, for making time for us tonight. All right, time for us to take a short break. We still have a lot lined up for you. We'll be back after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to TV47 News Tonight with me, Abu Bakar Abdullahi. Nairobi and Mombasa counties continue to lead in the number of COVID-19 positive cases in the country, following the lifting of the cessation of movement in the counties yesterday by President Uhuru Kenyatta. It is still uncertain how the government plans to flatten the curve of the coronavirus pandemic if the rise in numbers is anything to go by. Mumbi Chege explains.
The government on Monday made a decision to strike a balance between saving the economy that was downhill descent and the health of Kenyans. Finally, the president lifted the ban of movement in and out of Nairobi and Mombasa counties. But barely a day after the much-anticipated announcement, the Ministry of Health is now worried that Kenyans are no longer cautious.
And one must ask yourself, we must ask ourselves as individuals, do I have to enter a crowded place knowing very well that I can get COVID-19? As I was walking here, I got a call from Mombasa, from a friend of mine in Mombasa. And he said to me that the Gymkhana in Mombasa is full of people, nobody is keeping social distance, etc., etc.
On Tuesday, Nairobi County recorded 100 new coronavirus cases, bringing the total number in the capital to 4,354. Mombasa recording 13 new infections, bringing the total number to 1,646 in the county. A section of Kenyans questioning the government's preparedness to deal with the pandemic should the number of infections spike. Besides the risk of the virus spreading from the two counties to others, there is also the risk of heavy viral traffic between Nairobi and Mombasa. This could be a major hazard to the health facilities in the two counties. The facilities risk being overrun by the virus in the event of a spike and uncontrolled travel. Another major hazard is that people from many counties traveling to Mombasa must go through Nairobi. Their return is also dependent on Nairobi as a stopover or a connecting destination. This only increases the risk of infection and cross-infection. The president on Monday made it clear that if the set guidelines prove impossible, the country will have to go back to the drawing board. Mumbi Chege, TV47.
Thank you, Mumbi Chege, for that report. Let's get to the world of sports now. And Kenyan Premier League moneybags Wazito FC have sent packing 11 players just a day after parting ways with British coach Stuart Hall. In a post made on his Twitter account, Wazito owner said the players were lazy and they were only after his money, despite being signed behind his back. Among those axed is long-serving goalkeeper Stephen Njuguna, midfielder Teddy Osak, and strikers Pitson Mutumba, Victor Ndinya, and Derek Otanga. All right, that brings us to the end of tonight's edition of TV47 News Tonight with me, Abu Bakar Abdullahi. But before we let it loose and let it go, let me go through some of your feedback. Rudas on Facebook says, we thank President Kenyatta and he has done very good work. This is in reference to the easing of restrictions of movement into and out of the counties of Mandera, Mombasa and Nairobi. Kimaio Michael on Facebook says he's watching. Minhaj Deko says he's tuned. Mohammed Shakombo also says he's watching TV47 live. Well, that brings us to the end of tonight's edition of TV47 News Tonight with me, Abu Bakar Abdullahi, on behalf of the entire team that made this production possible. Bye for now, but I leave you with the weather updates. Good night and God bless. your feedback, welcome any comments, queries or complaints regarding our programming content. You can get in touch with us on 0768095491 or send us a message on 22047. You can also send us a letter on Post Office Box 2358 00621 Nairobi, or deliver it to our office at TV47 office, Ojijo Close off Ojijo Road, Parklands, Nairobi.